Okay, last week I did my question and answers video, but I didn't get through all of the questions, so let's finish that up right now. Heartless Karma wants to know, what wrestlers were you a fan of that nobody else seemed to be a fan of, they always seem to dislike, and what wrestlers are you not a fan of that everybody else seems to like? Well, for the wrestlers that I like that nobody else seemed to, the two that immediately come to mind for me, number one is A-Train, Giant Bernard in Japan. He was Prince Albert when he initially came to the WWF, WWE. Now, if you go back and you go look at the internet's posts about him back in the day, like back when he was in the WWE, you would have thought he was like the worst wrestler in the world because everybody bashed him back then. I mean, now that he's in Japan and he's Giant Bernard and he's doing well, everybody is like, oh, he's gotten better. He's good now. It's like, motherfucker, I was a fan of that guy almost from day one. I was always a fan of the A-Train. And, you know, I just thought of all, you know, this was a time period where the WWE was just flooding the company with all these big guys and they all looked the same. They all had tats and they all had the same basic moveset, and he was a big guy that kind of stood out to me. He had a look that set him apart, and he had a moveset that set him apart, and I thought he was a good worker. I don't know why everyone hated him so much. I know at points in the IWC, especially a decade ago, there was just this huge negativity against anybody who was big. It was like, if you weren't a cruiserweight, they hate you kind of mentality, and it was more, like I said, it was more prominent back in the day, and I guess A-Train was just a victim of that, but I kind of liked it. I'm not saying he was a world title kind of guy, but he was somebody that I thought was good at what he did, and you know what, they trusted him to beat up Stephanie McMahon without hurting her, so he wasn't dangerous, you know. No, I'm just saying, and you know, people like him now that he's Giant Bernard in Japan, but I always liked A-Train. I always thought he was really good. And another one is Scott Steiner, who I think is unfairly judged because he had one bad year in the WWE, and that's kind of dictated his whole career. And I don't think that's fair. I think, you know, you go back and you watch his stuff as the Steiner brothers. They were awesome. You go watch his singles run in WCW. I thought he was great there. I thought he was one of the few good things they had going at the end. I just really like his character. I love his promos. I mean, they're insane, but he's fun to listen to. And even in TNA, when I watch him, he's one of the veterans. Number one, he's not overpushed. I mean, how many world title shots has he gotten? You know, and is he really like overcrowding the TV and stealing the spotlight from other people that should be getting the spotlight? No, he's not as good as he was 10 years ago, but they don't push him like he is, so it's fine. And when he does work, he does like, okay, I remember Bound for Glory '09 when he was in that Full Metal Mayhem match, and he was suplexing people left and right, and he was fucking like, you know, going through tables and shit. I mean, he worked his ass off in that match. I know he worked a Frankensteiner in there somewhere. At his age, to still be able to do a Frankensteiner, I think is pretty amazing. And a friend of mine called me up after that pay-per-view. He said, dude, Steiner looked fucking awesome. I was like, yeah, that he's not going to get credit for it. And sure enough, he didn't. Yeah, people just kind of write him off because he had one bad year in the WWE, specifically 2 bad matches with Triple H, including one of the worst matches I've ever seen at Royal Rumble '03, and I'm like, look, he was just coming off of what was thought to be a career-threatening, career-ending injury, and he just shouldn't have been in that spot at that point. He had a lot of ring rust, and you know, and then when TNA brought him in, I had my doubts, but he worked with Joe, and I thought his early stuff with Joe in '06 was good. I enjoyed it. And I've enjoyed most of his stuff. Whenever I watch him work in TNA, it's like, you know what, that wasn't, you know, 4-star, 5-star level, but it was decent for what it was. It was fine. You know, for an undercard, mid-card match, he does fine. I don't have a problem with him. Of all the veterans that I bash in TNA, he's one that I really don't have a problem with. Whenever he's on the mic, he's legitimately entertaining. He's awesome. So, no problem there. And as for the wrestlers that everyone seems to like, and I don't like, I think I've said it before, I'm not a huge fan of Austin Aries, and I'm not a huge fan of Roderick Strong, mainly because I just don't see... It's not that I dislike them, it's that I just don't see what the big deal is with them. It's like, okay, like look at Austin Aries. My thing with him is that there's always been points where people say he's the best, and I feel like, I don't know, I kind of like this guy more. Or I was like, I like that guy more. Like, okay, look at what TNA did with the whole X Division tournament thing. It's like, I'd rather see Low Ki get the contract. I like him a lot more. Or Zema Ion, he seems new and fresh and exciting. I'd like to see what he can do. they're just, I don't know. He never stood out to me, I think is what what I'm looking, how I'm looking to describe this. He's just never, and number one, he always uses the brainbuster as a finisher, and I hate that move because it looks too much like a vertical suplex. Like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't look like that good of a finisher to me. But again, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he's a bad athlete. He's a very good athlete. I just don't think he's as impressive as a lot of other guys. And Roderick Strong just strikes me as a guy. I think I said it last year when Ring of Honor made him their world champion and tried to push him to the moon and pushed him as he was the top guy. I just kind of had to laugh at it. I was like, really, this is your top guy? He has no star qualities. He's and even as a worker, dude, Davey Richards is twice the worker he is, I think. And of course, Davey eventually got the belt, which is fine, but. I can name dozens of workers who've come through Ring of Honor that are better than him. I don't think he was ever the best option. Maybe he was after Tyler Black left. I don't know, but to me, he's just a guy. He's got some cool backbreakers, and that's about it. And other than that, I've just never really been overly impressed with him. And the guy can't talk. Never been able to cut a promo, and I don't know. I just found him kind of boring. And I can just name dozens of other talents that I find better. Okay, John 3 Nigma wants to know, if I were given the book for a year, what would have been my version of the WWE year between WrestleMania 26 and WrestleMania 27? And this is all stemming from my how to map a WrestleMania video that I did. That's really a loaded question. That could probably be a whole nother video unto itself. A lot of little things okay, if you're going to put the belt on The Miz, I would have done it differently. I would have handled his push a lot differently because I felt like they did a lot of things that kind of pulled him back a little bit. Dropping the U.S. title to Bret Hart. That was stupid. Shouldn't have happened. And just do a lot of little things to make him more credible, which I didn't think they entirely did. And, of course, they did the shock Money in the Bank title win, which I'm just totally sick of. Just a lot of little things to make Miz more credible as a heel champion. God, what else? I never would have put the belt on Kane. That idea would have never even crossed my mind. And I think this would have been the year, between 26 and 27, that would have been the year to think about unifying the titles, especially because, look at what they did at Mania 27 this year. Del Rio, who's totally not ready to be in the ring with Edge, again, not as a worker, I'm just saying as a character. That really did feel like an IC European title match more than it did a World Heavyweight title match, and I think maybe this, because this, the world title was so horribly handled by this point, this probably should have been the year to think about trying to find a way to unify the belts, maybe, or if not, not doing that, maybe. My big angle for SmackDown, I think, especially now that the match with Del Rio turned out to be Edge's last match. My big angle for the SmackDown, probably heading into Mania, would have been Edge versus Christian. I think that would have been a lot more fun and a lot more suiting as a finale for Edge's career, rather than just really just kind of a throwaway match with Del Rio, which is kind of sad that Edge's career ended that way. But there were probably a lot more little things that would have happened, could have done, but like I said, that would take a whole nother video to explain that, and I'd have to take an entire week to map the whole thing out and think about how I would do it too. So yeah. Okay, 36 Dotman wants to know, what do you think of Zack Ryder? First of all, I have to bring this up on Raw this week when John Cena took a little shot at Zack Ryder for wearing sunglasses indoors. I can't help but feel let me put it this way. If I were actually significant and important enough for John Cena to comment on, I would have felt like that was a shot at me. But, I'm not. So I'm sure he didn't have me in mind at all when he made that comment. But I just thought it was funny. I should address it. And yes, I do wear sunglasses indoors. And I will never stop. So, John Cena making fun of it almost makes me want to do it more, because that's just the way my brain works. But Zack Ryder, he was somebody that I felt they should have pushed 2 years ago when he was on ECW. I don't know. Now, I give him credit for getting himself over on the internet. He was a guy that said, I think he knew that his job was in jeopardy, and he just found a way to get himself over and do almost like a grassroots digital campaign to keep his job, basically. He's like, hey, look, I'm funny, and the fans think I'm funny. and the WWE is finally like begrudgingly putting him on TV. So yeah, I don't have a problem with Zack Ryder. I don't think he'll ever be anything like huge or big, but he could be a nice comedy character. I think he's a better comedy character than Santino. So yeah, I'm kind of digging Ryder. He's fine. And the final question comes in from We Are Pro Wrestling. Which do you think is worse, TNA Impact 2010 to 2011 or WCW 2000 to 2001? I'm going to say WCW 2000 to 2001 because even though TNA sucks right now, WWE isn't exactly stellar at the moment. And there is... so it's kind of like, well, yeah, this show's bad, but the other one's not too hot either, even though... yeah. Really, right now, the only thing in the WWE that's really capturing my attention is CM Punk, and they're even kind of like, not handling that angle as well as they could have, which I'll get into that later. But with WCW, you had a product that was, top of the mountain a few years earlier, and then just crashed and burned in a horrible fashion. And by the time 2000 rolled around, you had a WWF show that was fan-fucking-tastic. Awesome fucking show. And you have a WCW show that was just pathetic, and it was like watching a beloved pet just wither away and die, and it just made me more sad that WCW turned into what it became. And so that one was I think it looked worse when put up against the excellent WWE product, and it was sadder because WCW was a company that at one time was beating the WWF and was a viable contender, and now it was just slowly dying, and it was just sad to watch. Like TNA, even when they were good, they were never as big as the WWF, so their decline in quality wasn't, wasn't quite as heartbreaking, I guess. But so yeah, I'll say WCW 2000 was worse. It upset me more, at least. I'll say that.
Whoa! Wow, change of clothes, change of scenery. It must mean that I have magical powers like Evil Betty from Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. I'm a great magician. Or I'm just filming this part of the video the next day. And it's kind of weird. I actually have like a shooting schedule on these things now. That's really bizarre. I never thought that would happen, but whatever. But before I sign off here, I thought I should talk about the two upcoming pay-per-views. TNA No Surrender, which is tomorrow night, and Night of Champions, which I believe might be next Sunday, maybe the Sunday after that. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't really care about either show anyway, which is why I'm kind of just doing a mini thing for both of them. Let's see, No Surrender card. Kid Cash versus Jesse Sorensen, don't care. Brian Kendrick versus Austin Aries for the X Division title, don't care. Joe versus Morgan, Mickey James versus Winner for the Knockouts title. They did the title change on TV, so whatever, who cares. The tag title match is actually really funny. It's hilariously bad. Mexican America, or not LAX, versus the Pope and Brother Devon is like, wow, this is what the tag division's been reduced to. It makes me sad. God, what else? There's the three-way for the World Heavyweight title, Kurt Angle versus Sting versus Mr. Anderson. I've seen these three guys wrestle each other in singles matches way too many times. And making it a three-way doesn't make me care more. It just makes me more exasperated that they're out of ideas. So I just don't give a shit. So there's that. I don't think Angle's going to drop the title. If he does, and so a friend of mine pitched the idea, it's like, oh, Anderson's going to win the title, and Bully Ray's going to win the Bound for Glory series, and that's going to be your Bound for Glory title match. I'm like, if that happens, fuck this company. I don't think it will, but you never know. So we'll see. I think Robert Roode's going to win the Bound for Glory series, so which the Bound for Glory series finale is on this. I wish they'd put more emphasis into it being, a bigger bang with the finale, I guess. Like the poster has all 12 guys in the series featured, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if they found some way to just make this pay-per-view the Bound for Glory series or something like that, Because I do like the idea for the series, but it hasn't been executed as well as it could have, mainly with how they booked the characters. And, like I said, Bobby Roode, he's probably going to win this, and he hasn't really been handled that greatly as a character. But, he's the best option out of the four, I think. I mean, it's either, it's not going to be Storm. Please don't let it be Bully Ray. And fucking Gunner, no thank you. So there's that, and then we got Night of Champions, where the full card isn't set up yet. I have absolutely no idea what the Intercontinental title match is going to be. I really don't care. I think Cody Rhodes is still the IC champion, but I can't tell you that with 100% certainty. U.S. title match, it's probably going to be Dolph Ziggler versus either Swagger or Riley or both in a three-way. And I don't care because it's another angle focused on Vicky Guerrero, and I got sick of those 3 years ago, so whatever. Yeah, and people were telling me that she was going to leave Ziggler a year ago, and it's like, well, it's a year later and she's still there, so, what are you going to do? I wonder if Zack Ryder's going to defend his Internet Championship, if they're actually going to do that joke and just have him defend that belt on the pay-per-view. That might be kind of funny. I don't know. Divas title, Kelly versus Beth Phoenix, don't care. Tag titles, Air Boom, which is a terrible name for Kofi and Evan Bourne. It's even worse considering that the fans picked it. I'm like, shit, what were the other options? God. Then they're defending the titles against Miz and R-Truth, who I have never seen win a tag match, so how are they number one contenders? They basically got the title shot just because they asked for it, and, if you've followed my videos, I don't like that. But I'm not a fan of Miz being back in the tag division. I'm like, no, he should be a singles guy. What's he doing in the tag match? I don't know. But that's just me. I don't really care. Mark Henry versus Randy Orton for the world title. Don't care. Del Rio versus Cena for the WWE title. We're back to Cena versus the bad guy for the world title picture, or WWE title picture. I don't really care. I'm not saying it's as bad as like Bret Hart and the Patriot, but it's got that same level of apathy from me. I just, whatever. And the only match I really give a shit about is CM Punk versus Triple H. I think it's the best match on the show by far, and it's the only thing I think worth checking out from Night of Champions. The problem is I think they're rushing the match way too soon. I feel like, and I said it when Punk came back to television after Money in the Bank, they're not maximizing the potential out of the character. And to me, this whole thing with Triple H, this is a match you should do like at least 3 months down the road. Like, get some build out of it rather than just, rushing it just for the sake of having a big match on the pay-per-view, because you exhaust all your big matches when you do that, and I feel like they're doing that here, especially with this stipulation of if Punk... it's a no DQ match, number one, and if Punk wins, Triple H has to resign as COO. It's like, well, I'm not even used to seeing Triple H as the authority figure yet. That status quo still hasn't sunk in yet, so they're kind of rushing that possibility of him losing it, I think. The other possibility is that Triple H just beats Punk, which is like, do I really want to see that either, I know plans fell through with Nash, so like apparently he failed some physical or something and couldn't do the match, but that's what happens when you depend on Kevin Nash. It's kind of like depending on Jeff Hardy. Only, with Nash it's health, with Hardy it's just because he's a drug addict. But, I'm not overly excited for this pay-per-view. I'm not. And the one good thing they have is something that they didn't nurture as well as they could have. But, whatever. I'm kind of holding out for Survivor Series, actually. If the rumors are true that Rock's going to wrestle at Survivor Series, I think that would be really cool. And I'll say it right now. If he does wrestle, I'll order the pay-per-view. No questions asked. It doesn't matter who he's wrestling or what he's doing. I will order it just to see Rock, because I think that's a pretty cool attraction to have. So, until then, I will see you all later. Good luck to all the... NFL teams tomorrow. The season officially started on Thursday, but we get our first Sunday football tomorrow, and it's going to be great. Well, I don't know how great it's going to be for me. I love my Giants, but I've heard all this bad-ass fucking news, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse for our team, and I'm like, I don't know how we're going to have a good season and bounce back from all this shit, but... it is what it is. Good luck to all of your teams, and hopefully mine pulls a rabbit out of the hat and has a respectable season, but we shall see. And I'll see you all next week.